So, good evening once again, and welcome to the Monday Review Show. A couple of apologies from me to you, and also to my guest, Keith Hackett. First of all, for not being available. Some nights things are happening that are beyond my control, but it will now be from this day onwards. It will be on a Monday night, as per normal, but not at 7 p.m. UK and Irish time, but at 8 p.m. 8 p.m. from now on. So please tell your friends, share it with your friends. 8 p.m. now on a Monday night, and apologies for the confusion, and apologies to Keith for messing you around as well. So I appreciate
No problem.
Keith, the referees, I'm glad in a way that there's a lot more focus being put on referees. I know the old thing, they say the best referees are never seen, and that's gone way out. That doesn't exist anymore. Referees will only be seen when players behave in such a way that needs the referees to be seen.
Yes.
If the players behave themselves in play, you won't see the referee.
Yeah.
But you cannot ignore some of the nonsense that's going on at the moment. I just want to go back to what happened a couple of weeks ago. The behavior by the Fulham manager and their player Mitrovic, who really got into Chris Kavanagh's face. Yes. I mean, that was disgusting. So you were telling me that he's got the normal automatic 3-match ban for a red card, but the other charges will come later.
Yeah, well, the FA have already charged, and so therefore he will have a number of days before he puts in a submission, and then the panel will sit to determine the amount of days or games suspended. I think that the general consensus was that, given the two major incidents in the past with Paul Alcock when Di Canio pushed him and he fell over rather theatrically, but nonetheless he was off balance, but he fell over. I think he got an 11-match ban, although some say only 8, but I think it was 11. And I think David Prutton was also involved, another player, laying his hands on the referee, and he got a suspension of about 10 games. What has surprised me is that I've received a lot of emails on this particular subject and suggesting that my 10-match ban was rather low compared to other parts of the world.
Well, I'm glad to hear that now. You're going soft in your old age, Keith.
Yeah, and out pops over a 1-year suspension. I think at a certain level in the game, there was a signed die, that player not to play football for the rest of his life. So that I think that it shows the seriousness of this particular incident.
Absolutely. I mean, because once it starts, it'll just become endemic.
Yeah.
And the kids in the street, they're going out in their Sunday morning or Saturday afternoon matches, and they're seeing this on television, maybe on whatever channel, Match of the Day perhaps, or even on Sky or BT Sport, whatever. They're looking at this and they're saying, well, if he can do it, I can do it. For example, my 5-year-old grandson, who lives in London with his parents, he goes to football every Saturday morning. Yes. And the coaches there were training them and teaching them how to do remember the famous Johan Cruyff?
Yes.
Really around the back with the ball.
Yeah, absolutely.
Teaching them that,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
They're seeing that. They're also looking at the other side, the unsavory side, where players are deliberately falling down, and they are. And it drives me crazy that the referees are not taking action. Surely to goodness they can see. And in some instances, I'm on a rant now. Sorry, I'm on a rant. But they can see. They can surely see. Maybe we can get a better view with a camera coming down this way. But my goodness, as soon as they get touched, they're falling down. Now, Gerrard said one time, if a player is touched, he has a right to go down.
Yeah.
Come on.
Well, I watched a game this weekend where Andy Madley was the referee, and he awarded a penalty kick. A player placed his hands around a defender, around an attacker inside the penalty area, instantly
doing it all the time.
Instantly gave a penalty kick, and everybody was bemused. And I'm thinking, at last we've got a referee who's prepared to make the right call
Yeah.
And then they were almost like, well, there's no VAR intervention. I'm thinking, why does VAR need to come in? The referee's made the correct call. So I do think that this is the tough part of refereeing at this moment in time, and that is challenges, fair or foul, and making those judgments with a an eagle eye of the VAR on your shoulder. I'm not making excuses for referees. I'm actually saying I think that the pressure increases. They have a job to do, and I think it's so important. I've said this in the past. When a referee said, "Oh, I've got to be on my best behaviour today," there's an assessor in the stand going to watch me, and I'm going, "No, just referee your game and apply the laws accurately." And at the end of the day, you'll come out with a good mark if that is your intention. But I do think at the senior level, there's no doubt grassroots football copies it. We see, the league that I'm president of over here, we've had to issue further instructions regarding the technical area and the celebration of goals.
Yeah.
And I look sometimes and I see these guys that are operating at a pretty good level, walking on with like red boots and pink boots and all that. And I'm thinking, referee, come on. I hope I'm not old fashioned. Look smart, play the part, and nicely polished boots is a statement that says I'm ready for the game ahead.
And black, because black has always been the traditional referee's color.
Yeah.
Now you got teams wearing black, and the referees are having to change.
Yes.
Which is in the law, the referees change, but it shouldn't be that way. Why are teams wanting to wear black?
No, that's right. But one of the things that I've noticed in the last couple of weeks, and I think at the weekend, I think it's pretty evident. I've no grounds. I've not spoken to Howard Webb. I know him well, but I've not had that conversation. I do see an improvement in the mobility of referees on the field of play in the English Premier League in the last 2 or 3 weeks. I've seen Simon Hooper, who I thought had a good game at the weekend. I think he's slimmed down a bit, if I can say that. And I think with it, he's increased his mobility and getting around really well and officiating really well because, proximity to play improves your level of judgment and accuracy. And I think this is the point that I was trying to make. You had referees squeezing towards their assistant referee and leaving, if you like, the back post or the back area of the penalty area completely exposed. So I'm really pleased that Howard seems to be, first of all, insisting that the work rate is higher on the Football League, on the Premier League. And if it's not, they're not getting the appointments. It's pretty evident that he's tightening things up, and we're beginning to see some positive reaction. I think generally this weekend, overall, it was quite a good weekend for the referees. Generally.
Yeah, generally. But what I saw in some instances is the lack of consistency, because during a period of the game, the player falls down the penalty area, he throws his arms up, the referee ignores him. I think he should stop the game and caution him for feigning injury or trying to fool the referee. I think they should be cautioned. There is a couple of ways of doing it. I know one is to ignore them and leave them there and let them suffer the embarrassment, but they don't.
No.
Get embarrassed because they slam the ground with their hand and get the crowd worked up.
Yeah,
I would look back and I would put that player in his place and say, there, buddy, remember now, that's one. 2 means red, so behave yourself. Rather than ignoring them. You can ignore them, sometimes it works. But then later on, for a similar or less serious, less obvious push, he gives a free kick.
I'm quite clear, and I'm probably going to stimulate some debate on this site, and that is, I think we've seen the introduction of the sin bin at grassroots level. I witnessed at the weekend 2 players being sent to the sin bin, and it was very effective because it's an individual punishment, but it's a team punishment, and it's instant. And does affect the game. So for me, I think the game should seriously think about bringing into the elite level the use of the sin bin, and for acts of simulation, ship them off for 10 minutes, and let's see how their colleagues react when they go down to 10 men, and the opposition put the ball in the back of the net.
Yeah,
I just think we've got to get into that realm of trying to bring back some, if you like, authority in referees, but that's down to the referees.
Or respect.
You're absolutely right. They've got to be
very
consistent.
little respect now for the match officials. There really is very little respect.
Well, I mean, it was highlighted, wasn't it, with Mitrovic and the behaviour of the manager, who have publicly apologised since, but the damage is done.
I was going to say that. You hit the nail on the head. Yeah.
Yeah. You know, and I think that we've got to get to a position where I think the fourth official's got to be more active. I think this soft approach by the fourth official, nicey, you know, I'm a spectator, I'm not really official. I think we've just got to. I mean, somebody wrote to me at the weekend and asked me what the role of a fourth official is. And I responded, and then he came back and said, well, they're not doing the job. You know, it was almost an instant response. And I'm saying, because I'd outlined the law and I'd made it clear that the fourth official shouldn't be messing around with bits and pieces in the technical area. His eyes should be on the game in case the referee misses something. You know, we've got all these eyes looking at the game and still missing the big decisions.
But then the assistant referees as well. I mean, they're the eyes and the referees in the back of his head, and they should be watching out. But sometimes they get engrossed in the game and they're watching the game and they're not watching what the centre half and the centre forward are at, kicking each other. I'm exaggerating, of course, but that kind of thing. So you have a set of eyes coming from one line and a set of eyes from the other line, and you have the referee doing a pirouette, as it were, and the fourth official also. But his main job, of course, is to the technical areas. But the way that they are now harassing, barracking the fourth official in his ear, I mean, he's not there to explain the referee's decisions. That's not his job.
No.
Honestly, I think they should ignore them. And the other bugbear I have is when a player goes down injured, and I put it in inverted commas, the referee's running over to him as if it's his son, and are you all right there? Tapping him on the back or tapping him on the head. That's not his job.
No, that's right.
All he does is ask him, do you need attention? Do you need the physio, the doctor on? Yes or no? And if he says yes, you call on the guy, and then you stand back. But no, they're right down in the players' faces. And in a way, I would feel it's almost patronizing. And that, because of that attitude, in my opinion, they're already lowering their esteem.
I think you're absolutely right, and I think the problem is that the lawmakers have made it easier for this, because if you recall, under the regime of Blatter, a guy who I didn't necessarily agree a lot of things with, but when he was in charge, we had no treatment of players on the field of play at all. Just it was a 15-second inspection or a 30-second inspection, and the player then had to go off. We've seen a complete watering down to the effect that, you know, we've now got the tactical delays coming in with players feigning injury and almost the ambulance needing to come on for what is just a knock. And it's all a bit exaggerated. And sadly, you know, as fans, we're not daft. Fans see it. And okay, in a way, they might say, well, it's our side and we're happy for that to happen. But when it happens against them, they get really foul about it. But there are, you know, if you don't do the basics right in refereeing, the game will bite you. You're there to control the match. And, you know, we've look at the reduction now in use of the spray for the 10 yards. And I saw encroachment at the weekend in a game, and I'm thinking, why didn't you use the spray? Why have you reduced your impact of that particular equipment to help you? So why didn't you secure the 9.15? And my view is because of the Premier League, we don't have assessors at the games. I think we've seen a watering down of what should be basic refereeing.
Yeah.
You know, if you and I are to the game and we're watching a referee, we expect the referee to carry out the basics naturally, to be proactive. This is where I want the ball. Don't touch it now. And then, you know, I don't think every 9.15, 10 yards of the wall needs to be paced out. I think there are methods of authority from the referee that can actually secure that. Stand on the ball and say, I want you back. And then, if need be, walk. But don't walk into the wall. Walk at the side of the wall, past it, and say, I want you here.
Yeah.
And then draw the line.
And the other bugbear I have is not only that, where the player for the offending team refuses to move back and he's standing beside the ball. The guy wants to take a free kick. And he... Do you know what I mean?
I mean, the other thing, look, I know this is basic, but the other thing that I see is I see the referee having got the 9.15 standing at the side of the ball and restricting the opportunity of the kicker if he wants to pass the ball sideways to a colleague to do something different. And I'm thinking, why is he there? And I think sometimes, look, I don't want to be an old fart. The game moves on, but at the end of the day,
to what extent?
The basics in refereeing are quite clear. And one of them is, you know, somebody said to me, how you referee is down to you. What I expect of you is you to control the game, you to manage the players effectively so that you are in charge. And you've got to demonstrate that. And when I look at all the top referees that I've watched and I've seen, they've applied that law. They've been excellent communicators. They've been proactive, and they've been prepared to caution. Quickly.
And then the stealing of yards at a throw-in. My word!
You know, I mean, you see that. One of the things that I was pleased to read. But is the fact that over £1 million of fines have been paid this season for players in the Premier League disputing referees' decisions. You know, when you get the referee surrounded by 2 or 3 players, he's supposed to report that. Well, interestingly, a lot of referees are. And as a result of that, there's over £1 million worth of fines being applied this season to Premier League clubs today. Amazing.
I didn't know that.
So it's a positive, but that needs, you know, refereeing needs to be seen to be done on the field of play, not re-refereed off it.
Yeah. And that's what's happening because now you're dead right. It's now the FA who are refereeing the game or imposing the punishments when, in fact, Law 5 says the referee, paraphrasing, has the final say. So he should be doing his job, dishing out yellow cards, and if they're suspended, tough. That's the way it goes. You know, you go into a shop and you rob it, you're going to get arrested and you're going to get a fine or maybe get locked up in jail. That's the way it is. If you drive on the right-hand side of the road, you're going to get locked up if you survive, and so on. So, like, there's a consequence for everything, and sometimes they're good, sometimes they're bad. But the way players are getting away, it's just, you know, Keith, there's just no respect anymore for match officials.
Well, I think there's almost this. You know, I can remember a referee getting into trouble. Alan Robinson was a referee on the South Coast, really nice guy, and he made a comment about players cheating, and as a result, he was suspended for using the word cheating. And when we this is a few years ago, and he was really upset by that because we all said at the time, well, what else are they doing then? They're trying to con us, they're trying to cheat. And I think that, you know, I'm not so suggesting, I'm not so sure that the game's moving in the right direction. You know, at grassroots level, at the level of a semi-professional level, we can actually use 7 substitutes. That's part of the law. You know, we can't afford that. We're now having to pay not for 12 players, but like for a busload. And when I sit there and I watch all the, you know, they'll give us shots, won't they, of the technical area.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I just look at the number involved and I'm thinking they must need a separate bus on their own to get to the ground. What are all these people? Why do they need to be in the technical area? If they're a coach, why do they need to be there? Why can't they be given a seat in the stand somewhere? They're not going to impact on the game. How many people do you want to manage the game on a match day? Amazing.
How do you think we can stop this, Keith? This cheating, diving, shenanigans? Surely the referees, it has to start on the field.
On the field.
Under Law 5.
Yeah. Well,
and he needs to put his foot down.
Yeah. I think first of all, when we look at VAR, where VAR is in operation, I think we should add to that. I think we should add a clause. You know, we've got penalty kicks and goals and misidentification, that sort of thing. It's very limited, isn't it? The 4 levels of criteria for VAR. I think I'd bring the 5th in, and that would be acts of simulation.
But is it not there, Keith? Acting simulation. It is.
If you look at the penalty area, it is, but not in open play. We're getting people diving and cheating in open play. So
it's cheating.
So that's the first bit. The second bit would be, if they're not going to accept that, then I think that there's got to be retrospective punishment by the league. Right.
Yeah, and then I'd also have retrospective punishment for the referee
with a separate panel. Yeah, because one of the things that I really got upset about last week, and that was the fact that it came to my attention that the KMIs, which are key major incidents that take place, are actually reviewed by a panel. The panel is made up of 5 ex-players. And there's one on my list
to ask you about it.
Right. So there's 5 ex-players. I think that they change, right? And then there is a representative of the PGMOL and a referee. Now, but the majority are ex-players. And I have this on good authority because I'm not going to divulge, but I chatted to someone who is an operational official on the Premier League. I'm not going to even indicate his role, but let me tell you this.
But he's non-active. He's not a referee.
He is an active official.
Okay.
He advised me.
Not a referee, an active official. Yeah, fine.
He advised me that there was an incident where a red card was issued. Apparently, I had confirmed in my piece in the Daily Telegraph supporting the referee for the red card, and that this panel advised the referee that he got it wrong. And I can tell you that his colleagues were stunned by that decision. And what worries me, right, if that is factual, and I believe it to be, what really worries me is you cannot have the league influencing how referees referee. Now, there's a lack of balance here. If you're going to run a panel of ex-players and that on that panel is a representation of referees, it's got to be equal. 3 of each, and then the chairman who has the deciding vote. I worry about that. And I've made comments about that.
I wouldn't allow it at all, because otherwise they're going to have to change the law, because Law 5 says the referee's decision is final. Correct. So does that mean it's only final until the committee meets on a Monday to decide yay or nay? Absolutely not. And how objective would these people be? And by the way, I read that story. In fact, I got it from you about these 5 people, and 2 of them are Irish. One is John Walters, and who's the other guy? He was at Nottingham Forest for a while.
Stephen Reid.
What's his name?
Stephen Reid.
That's right. Yeah. Now, not that it makes any difference what country they're from, but they're ex-players. How are they going to be objective? Do we go in and tell coaches, you shouldn't be doing that, you should have played him, you played him at centre half, maybe you play him at centre forward, we don't do that. It's none of our business.
I was being facetious because I wrote and said, are we going to have a panel of referees judging on players who miss hitting the back of the net? I mean, I don't know who makes these decisions.
Oh, goodness.
But I really do worry about them. You know, what you've got to do is you've got an ex-World Cup referee in charge of referees now. Let him be the boss. Let him set the agenda within the framework of the laws of the game. If he then needs to have a couple of quality coaches working for him and with him, they can be the panel on a Monday. They can review.
Referee coaches, not team coaches. I wouldn't have teams involved at all.
At all. Referee coaches. Look, you know, so for me, I looked at it and I thought, crikey. But the one shining grace, I think, this weekend, and I hope it's not a blip, I just thought one or two referees refereed really well this weekend. You know, obviously the fans don't, but technically, I mean,
they don't know the laws.
Yeah, I mean, we had Chris Kavanagh again, didn't we? Issuing red cards in the technical area, but not to the coaches this time. To two guys who help, and I'm thinking,
was that the Forest Wolves game?
Yeah.
Great. I thought it was fantastic. I thought at last a referee with some backbone and some guts.
Yeah.
Oh, he was obviously acting on the advice of the fourth official or the assistant who heard what was being said, because I presume he wouldn't have heard it out in the middle of the pitch.
No.
Well, that was great cooperation between the match officials. Yeah. And I'm glad that he had the guts to do it. But how many are not doing it?
Well, I think that...
Is that a reason? Like you mentioned earlier, that these guys are now going to give opinions on the referee's performance that are not referees, these players. I mean, the referee's gone out there scared. Oh, I don't want to upset anybody. I want things to go well, and I let a little bit go in case they might write a bad report about me.
No,
the referee has no chance. He's on a hiding to nothing.
Yeah, I genuinely believe, although I know Howard Webb really well as an individual, as a referee, I've every confidence that he will bring refereeing standards up to where they should be. He's got to be given time. He's also got to be given the levels of authority to be able to do that. But he's also got to change some personnel. He's already done that in the VAR room. He's got rid of Mason. He's moving the guy, Neil Swarbrick, at the end of the season. There's a referee who you and I know, Mike Dean, who is full-time VAR. He's gone missing, by the way.
Oh.
He's not had an appointment in weeks. No, the media's not got hold of it yet.
Not missing in a legal sense, just
not being given appointments. He's not being given appointments. So I don't know whether he's out caddying for somebody at golf or whatever, which he's done in the past. But I'm rather surprised that, you know, if we're moving and the game needs to move forward, then people of his experience, although, you know, need to be used in that VAR room.
Keith, great talking to you again. Many thanks. I'm sure there'll be lots more incidents for next week's Monday review show, which incidentally, ladies and gentlemen, people out there, keep sending in your comments and your whatever you want to talk, your questions as well. But it will be from now on. Please tell your friends, share it with all your friends. Monday review show, 8 p.m. on a Monday night, Irish and UK time. Until next week, Keith, see you then. Thank you very much.
Pleasure. Bye.
Bye.